Giving excessive amount of control in your children's lives will create children that cannot live on their own, cannot be responsible, and don't know what they want to do in life. Before going into the debate, let us characterize and understand what is helicopter parenting and what is free range parenting. Helicopter parenting or an overpart parenting where you give excessive levels of involvement and control in your children's lives. So you control what your children do, where do they go to schools, where they can take their jobs, and what they can and cannot do, and too much supervision in your children's lives. In the opposite side, we as a government team choose free range parenting, which is a parenting that promote their independence, and so we also reduce our excessive parental supervision and we give them some acceptance levels of personal risk that our children can take. Now, what do we mean as a middle income family? Middle income family are those family that only have enough money to fulfill basic needs such as food, clothing, and housing. So they don't have a very excessive amount of wealth to give your children to a very expensive private school, for example, or they cannot go on a vacation to Europe or a different continent outside of their continent. They also cannot take many dangerous risks because that very enough money cannot be used to go do things that is dangerous, and that is why they cannot take chance on having a very problematic children because that is very dangerous for their family. And in this debate we will characterize children to be someone under the age of 18. Now, let us look at the status quo. We live in a such capitalist world, which means day by day we are facing competition with other peoples, and also we're living in a such advancing world in their technology. Now, in this case, technology will most likely be understandable by the newer generation like Gen Z or Gen Alpha rather than the older generation like Boomer and etc. And in this capitalist world, middle income family are often stuck in their wealth and they cannot improve their life better because they are being oppressed by the capitalists, bourgeoisie or very people that control a lot of wealth in our world. And now let's get how we will define free our side of the house. Firstly, opposition side, you cannot say that we are leaving the children. No, we still support them financially and emotionally. The thing is, how free range parenting works is that we will teach our children first how to do things, how you can get job, how can you wash dishes, clean clothes, or you how to do part-time jobs. And after they understand how to do their jobs, that is when we give them freedom so that they can take their own risk. So in this case, we would want to create a bond or trust between us and our children. So they can go to us if they have any problems, and we can also tell them if they do something very poorly. Now, let's go into my first argument, which is how free range parenting improves parents' flexibility. We need to understand first that parents ideally care much about their children, right? They want their children to be good. But the thing is, parents are also a living human that have their own lives. They also have things to do, friends, and they also have their own dreams. Now, firstly, middle income family works a lot. They work from 9 to 5 most likely. And they also in some cases work multiple jobs because they need a lot of money. Now, well, by giving you a free range parenting, you don't always have to watch over your children all the time. You give them how to do things and then you give them freedom. You don't have to over whatever thing your children is doing so that parents will have more time in their lives. Secondly, parents are people who worry about their children, right? So in this case we would give them teaching on how to be independent and how to handle a very hard thing in their lives. So parents can be more calm and more and feel safer because they know their children already understand how to maintain themselves and control themselves when they're facing a problems. Thirdly, parents will always want their children to be the best, of course. So in this case, give we will teach our children how to take risks but still be reasonable because we're from a middle income family. They need to understand that the risks they are being taken should be considered to be considered very carefully. In this case, parents know that their child will most likely be improving. Why? Because they know how to take risks and how they could maintain this risk and to not take a very dangerous risks, and they still be are reasonable. So in the end, by giving free range parenting, parents will feel more safer and more calm and can freely live their own lives too, like going with your friends. Now, for preemptive, opposition cannot say that their child, our child in this case, will do crazy things like smoking or doing sex. Why? Because instead, it will most likely happen in the opposition side. When you give excessive control on your children will see parenting and you as a jail, as a shackles that they need to escape. And one way to escape, only way that they can achieve freedom and escape is to actually break your rules on parenting. That is why in the opposite side of the house, it was actually most likely that your children will do harmful things like drugs and sex because they see them as achieving their own freedom in their lives. Now, moving to my second argument is how free range parenting will improve your child development. Children in our set of the in a middle income family are expected to improve better and develop better because you would likely want that your generation improve financially and economically, right? Now, children's firstly are people that are human that wants to be free. So that is why in our side of the house we will give them freedom, but note that the freedom will be limited. We will not give them excessive a lot of freedom that we also still have limitation and restriction like you have to come home before this hour or you have to spend this amount of money and you don't have you cannot spend a lot of money. That is how giving freedom works. So they will consider their choice because they know there is consequences and outcomes of their choice in their lives, and the amount of freedom we're giving to them still have a responsibility to take care of. Meanwhile in the opposition side, they will likely do stuff really just in a sense to get freedom. Why? Because like what I've explained, they see your parenting as a shackles and a cage and jails. So there is no opportunity of development because they do things without care because they just want freedom. Secondly, we want children to survive outside work, right? So we in our side we give them responsibility and how to handle hardship. So next time when they handle problems or hardship, we know that they can handle that. And lastly, because we are a new generation and they know more about today's world, they know what they want and they know how to maximize their knowledge to their best because we already give them freedom to try and take on the things they want to do. Inside, in the opposition side, parents would likely choose what their children wants, and the children cannot do what they want, and parents could make a very faulty choice on their children's life. And even in the worst case scenario, where children falls into negative things like drugs, violence, etc., our children will can handle them because they know how to handle problems in the first place, like because they have independence and responsibility, and they can also go back to us to ask for help. And this will not happen in the opposition side because their children will plummet into desperation. They cannot handle problems, they cannot handle hardships, and they cannot even go back to their parents because they have done things very terrible. And that is why we as the government team chose free range parenting because it is the best for us. Very happy to propose. Thank you.